Hello and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today I'm going to do a full length, or I'm going to try to get to a full length watercolor landscape painting. And this is going to be from a photograph I took the other day. I already painted the scene, I just wanted to reapproach it. And I'm also going to be using some brushes that were sent to me by Golden Maple. I'll kind of talk about what they sent as I use it. Some of the brushes I use will not be from them because I don't have a full collection from them yet. But I really like the brushes and I wanted to do a full length and kind of talk as I used them. All right, so that being said, oh yeah, and I have links down below, and I think I have a 10% off if you use my name Andrew Broussard over at Golden Maple now. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so anyway, in front of me, I have a 9x12. This is a hot press pad, 100% cotton, and I taped it down to approximately 6x11. I like that more horizontal experiment for these type of landscapes, so that's what I've been going with. All right. So first off, I'm going to use their mop brush that they sent, and my tape is just sticking to everything. I'm going to use that to wet my paper before we dive in. While I'm wetting it, I'm not sure if this is going to be a YouTube or a Patreon video, but as always, you're always welcome to follow along with anything that I do, and you have my express permission to sign your own name and sell anything you do whenever you follow along. I want you guys to have money for art supplies, to have fun. And down the line, you know, you're going to develop your own style. So it's not like you're going to be copying stuff forever or following along with tutorials forever. That being said, if you want to support this channel, I do have the Patreon link down below. I also have the Etsy with paintings for sale, which are really cheap right now. Okay. So here is some Naples yellow. It's really my go-to for just the background and starting that horizon in the sky. Just a really easy go-to for me. This one's Winsor Newton. And this one is a little bit redder, and it's the Daniel Smith. I also have the Da Vinci brand on the way, coming in the mail, which probably should be here any day. I really enjoy those earth yellows, just earth pigments in general. The Naples yellow pigments nowadays are a mixture of a white and a yellow, or a white and maybe an earth red. It's just, I don't think Naples yellow, the original, is like available anymore. Here's some ultramarine. From what I understand it, when you look up pigments that were used in the past, sometimes the mines, wherever they got it from, were just used up. Okay, so some ultramarine blue. I think I'll be fairly happy with that. Not really a great transition between the two, but we'll see how it dries. And you know what? I'll start with the Naples yellow for the ground. I'm going to go pretty low with that horizon line, so somewhere in here. We could play around a few more colors if we wanted to. The main focus is the composition. So I'm going to pause the camera, I'm going to dry it off, and then we'll get started on the landscape. So if you do a huge wash, I really recommend every time going around and wiping the tape. Not that you need the tape clean, but that wet pigment that you're probably not going to dry off is going to catch on the back of your hand. Mine always catches right here, and then I wind up putting a dollop of paint in the sky. So you want to maintain nice and clean. All right. So that being said, I'm going to use this white natural brush from the Golden Maple. I want to see what type of point I can keep with it. And that also, I'm going to grab some colors and kind of get the landscape in place, get some ideas where the ground's going to be. This is a Rembrandt pigment. I think it's a gold ochre. Yeah, it's gold ochre. And for the most part, let me put on a yellow ochre. Here's a yellow ochre from Daniel Smith. This one might be a little bit deeper and redder. So there is an obvious difference between the two, but later on in the late stages of painting, after I've layered stuff, I'm not sure if I would see a difference. It's kind of just a personal experiment for me right there. And here I'm going to want to put a path. That's some Naples yellow, but you'll see we'll build it up back and forth. This brush, I think after yesterday's painting, probably became my favorite brush with how much water it holds. I'm not sure if it's just the material or what, but it's really nice. Okay, sorry if I'm reaching over, but I'm just trying not to touch the wet spots. And I'll be pausing a lot to do dry offs anyway. So if you've been following along with this style of painting and this exploration, you'll know at this point that I like to have a separation between the foreground. You have the midground tree line right about here, and then we have a field that we can see a little bit beyond that ridge. It's just the way I've been kind of developing my compositions lately. Now, I want to kind of shape out the crown of the trees. And let's experiment with Naples yellow for shaping out. Okay, I'm going to bring my tree line to about this point. And once again, if you've been following along, you'll know that I really love the tree lines, and I'm really delving deep into those experiments. So we're going to have a tree here. We have a larger tree, which is going to be greener up in this region. It's about the width of it. Then an even closer golden tree. We have some greenery right behind it. And I'm still using just the Naples yellow. And I'm going to come up over here. I'm going to have a tree branch right there. Then background wise, I'm going to have a group of trees in the distance. It's the Naples yellow. And I'll feed some colors in and just get just that idea in place. Oh, by the way, so the art studio build is coming along really, really well. Here's some yellow ochre. We have the lights up. We had poured concrete around the front and the back. The original people that had built the shed didn't have the concrete smooth at the edges in the front and back, so there was a gap between the metal and that. So when we put the new metal walls in, we had to pour some concrete in the front and back, so we did that. And also got the last coat of the cool seal on the roof, which will help keep the roof for a longer time period because I can't afford to change that roof right now. And since we're doing the projects ourselves, like actually getting up there and doing that, that's just kind of way too much right now for me. But so we did that. It's supposed to help with any leaks or rust and help it last longer. The only things we really need to do is build the art table or two in there. I reached out to a easel company to see if they wanted to send an easel for the new art studio. And we need to cut a hole and install the window unit, the AC unit, because I'm down in Louisiana, and Louisiana gets very hot. Here's some raw umber going in there. Okay. I really like this brush. Let's see where I want to go with this. It dried pretty quickly, but there's some spots I can smudge, so I have to be careful. I'm going to grab Rich Green Gold, a Daniel Smith pigment. And I'm going to start getting ideas of where my foliage is going to be. So I kind of mapped it out a little bit earlier. Now I'm going in a little bit stronger with these ideas. Since I've been experimenting and kind of developing this approach, it's very easy to fall into certain techniques, especially the cross-hatching marks, which is great, and the hatching marks give a windy effect, but I don't want a windy effect to every painting. So I'm doing a lot more once I get my ideas in place. In other painting videos and other paintings, for this application, I would use a small round brush like a size 0 and go in on the side dry brushing. With this brush, I would have to really experiment with it for moisture control to see if I wanted a dry brush with it. I've also used the Chinese whisker brushes and gone in that fashion. I'm not sure if Golden Maple has a Chinese whisker brush, but that's another thing to check as well. Honestly, if they had that, and let's say a round, and then I'm sure they have fan brushes, I could use my whole brush equipment from them. So I'll reach out and I'll check later on. I know they have a Hake brush. I'm not sure how it is compared to the Ron Ranson Hake brush, but I haven't really been doing that fast and loose as I've been exploring this style. But a Hake brush would be very beneficial just for the initial wetting of the paper. Back here I have some green, but I'm just using the ochre. Then we're going to get dark in there. I'm just going to grab some undersea green for right in here real quick. So this brush also seems good for blocking in. So I'm going to push some undersea green around. Bring this tree line a little bit lower. I do like when you can take a brush and push it and get textures like that. I'm sure some people might cringe to see a brush treated so, but you know, you can't paint what you want to paint if you baby them, or at least for me, I can't. Let's see, I'm gonna gingerly approach the land again. Kind of a different idea, so maybe it's not so much of a gingerly approach if I'm taking Hansa Yellow light. I ordered a tube of Hansa Yellow light from Da Vinci brand since they're having a sale, and it's a good pigment to have. Hasn't come in yet. This is the Daniel Smith. And Naples Yellow right here. I think it's time to pause for a dry off. Okay, some spots a little damp. Okay, now I'm going to introduce and use the needle rigger brush. Essentially, a rigger brush is a different fur, it looks like, a different hair, whatever it is. And it's encased in a shorter one. This will give you the fine lines, and this acts as a reservoir to hold more water pigment. So, that being said, usually for what I'm about to do now, I use the Chinese whisker brush. I found that small round brushes were not good enough for it. And I found that the small spotter brushes, like the little dot, let me see if I have one to show you what I'm talking about as I drop stuff. I'm taking up time, I'm sorry. Just a small little dotting brush, it just doesn't hold enough, so you're refilling the brush. Okay, here is some Van Dyke Brown. And I'm going to use this to kind of get an idea for the tree trunks. Okay, so you can get a really thin line with it. And we'll see how long we can go before I have to refresh. Okay, I have the picture alongside me on a Kindle. I can upload the picture I'm referencing to Patreon if you want to follow along. Okay, so we're able to get some lines out of it. I think from an advertising standpoint, they show people drawing fur and stuff like that. I am not, somebody who really paints animals or draws animals, but I can see if you do that, having to reload your brush after every hair must be quite tedious. So right here, this is the shadow being cast, but I like to use it to separate the planes within the picture painting, the painting. So I would usually use either the round, small round right now, or like I said, the Chinese brush, the whisker one, in order to kind of put this in. As you can see with this one, working it sideways, you get a dry brush effect very quickly. I like to break this area up so we can get inklings of rocks or just grass or foliage or stuff coming up. Let's see. Also, in other news, I've been talking to my boss, my principal, a lot about hopefully getting some art classes next year. And I think that I would really enjoy that. Oh, I did like how I could still go crazy with this brush and get the weird textures from that as well. And you'll probably see a lot more of that later on. Okay, let's look at this tree right here. Just pulling some ideas in for the trunks. We have another tree trunk right here. We have another smaller one alongside it. And I'm getting a little too loose in this planning stage, but I'll pull it all together right in here. Okay. And start getting these ideas back in this far tree line. Okay, here's the white natural brush. I use Hansa yellow in here. I'm going to grab the rich green gold. I'm kind of scrubbing in because I really don't want brush strokes. Here's some yellow ochre. Here's some Naples yellow. My goal overall is to kind of blend my brush strokes at the very end or throughout. Here's some undersea green again. And I'm looking for those darker portions. And letting the darker portions connect. I'll even bring that dark area down here. So that's undersea green that I'm pushing around. I can bring the idea of a tree off the edge of the painting, casting a shadow. And at any time, you could take the back of brushes or your fingernail or a cut credit card or just anything specific for that and kind of create some lines and move some pigment around. You can deliberately damage the paper and create backfills. I would do that a lot in the fast and loose paintings. Here, I'm just getting some little texture ideas and it's helping form the image in my mind. Later on when I do this, we'll have more paint layered and it'll actually move back and create white lines or lines within the layer we're working with. Let me pause the camera and hit it with a blow dryer. Okay, so now I have an idea of where everything's going to go. Composition's kind of laid out. I'm going to work the painting continuously all at once. I'm not going to sit and try to develop one spot completely. The reason I do that is, for me personally, if I was to sit there and do one spot completely, I wouldn't have the same level of energy and uniformity throughout the whole painting. Then that's just my approach. As an aside, and going back to just talking about art classes, I've noticed that a big thing that students do, or our teachers do, is the whole portrait or picture where it's a grid, and then they have to do the individual grid space, And I can understand how that helps break something down piecewise, but I can't imagine doing it with the painting process. But that's just how I am with it. The great thing about art is that there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. So using this brush to stipple, and I think that's where it's going to have the most value for me, with the quantity of water and pigment that it can hold without having to recharge the brush over and over again. I know that the kind of stippling approach is counterintuitive to other painting styles, especially the fast and loose tonalist videos that I do. And you can get that texture with different brushes, but for this size and for what I'm exploring, I really want to pursue this approach on this size. So anyway, this is a mixture of Perylene Green and Alizarin Crimson, both Daniel Smith colors. That being said, Perylene Green, from what I understand, is a pigment PBK 31, so it's a black pigment even though it's green. And the Alizarin Crimson, you always want to be careful with that. This one is the permanent one, so it's not the original Alizarin Crimson. The original Alizarin Crimson is very fugitive. I don't need to recharge yet. I was just reaching to the side. I was like, nope, let's keep doing this. Anyway, Alizarin Crimson, you just want to be careful whenever you're purchasing it to make sure you're not buying the light fast. Sorry, I'm like burping. Wow, sorry about that. The Alizarin Crimson is not light fast, so you want to get one that's just the permanent. It's a mixture of pigments, and it'll help your paintings last for a long time. The Alizarin Crimson, the one that fades, if you have like a lightness scale of maybe 4 values, where 1 is being really good, they're usually ranked 4 as really, really bad. I think that people still buy them because the original color cannot be truly mimicked. I think that's what I saw on one forum. But then again, if you've never used the original color, why worry about it? And then if you're somebody who is not worried about the longevity of the initial painting, maybe you're scanning it up or uploading it, then you don't have to worry about things like that. Okay, so it could hold quite a bit. As you can see, it went down dark and then it started lightening up as we kind of got to the end of it. That's actually a technique that's used in Chinese brush painting with foliage, or just in general, getting the darker applications and then having the lighter tonality applications as well. And it naturally creates some variance within the painting, and it also will help with perception of depth. so I want this guy darker up in here. I'm blabbing a lot today. I hope you all don't mind. I had my math students working on, well, it's financial literacy, so they were working on vocab and kind of a wrap up for the chapter. So it wasn't a lecturing day, so got to get my talking in. Okay. And I can go back over areas. Whenever we're going in, here I'm heavily applying it. I'm looking to eliminate some of the textures in the shadows. You're not going to see a super amount of detail in the shadows and in the darks. So you can get away with switching it up like that. But you want to be careful and think to yourself, how can I create a uniformity within the painting where I have dots that I could see separately and then I have a mass of just almost darks right there. Okay, let's just get some darks in here real quick. I'm gonna clean this brush. And I imagine it would hold a lot in it still, so I have to be careful. Make sure I clean stuff. Not drop brushes everywhere. But let's grab Naples Yellow. Now I just dipped the end in it, so I don't anticipate this dip going long. Let me get some more water on there. There we go. Let's stipple in this guy. There's a lot of water in this mix, so you start to get an idea of how the different dots are going to dry based off of the different quantities of water. But it's still the initial application and getting things in place. Here's the green gold. Bring some gold back in here. Okay. And I'm going to search out that green gold in these trees. Not so much stippling as I am just going in with it. I'm going to put that to the side for right now. Easier to mop in this area. Here's a different dark mix. Phthalo green and the alizarin crimson. So the previous one was the perylene green and alizarin. You can mix a lot of different things with different greens and reds. You can get browns, you can get darks, like blacks, you can get kind of a gray. This mixture can produce that. And I think Daniel Smith sells that mixture and they call it a Jane's Black, and it says green red mix. I think Gamblin oil paints sell it as a chromatic black, the mixture of those two pigments. So you can buy them pre-mixed, you can mix them yourself and just look at it different directions. But it's a common mix, I think. Just moving that around. And see if we want any movement in it. Let's switch to the rich green gold. And bringing it home with Naples yellow. Got a little too excited. Brought that up too high. So now's a good time to do a quick dry off. Okay, so another kind of cool thing with this approach is that you can stop at any time. If you are liking the results where you're at, you can call it finished. Okay, here is the Naples yellow. So I'm just really kind of looking for that glow, the light coming from this direction, hitting that area behind. And before I work on the shadows, I'll grab this guy and we'll darken this background up and look for gradients within it. So this is the raw umber. It's the shadow part of the trees underneath. I'm going to bring this kind of mass over in this direction. Okay. Here is gold ochre, but like I said earlier, if you just have yellow ochre, there's no need to go crazy and buy different pigments. I'm just been going crazy so I can compare and see what I can do, especially with my earth pigments. And we can even explore a little bit of the Hansa yellow back here. I'll let this side catch some light. I want to put tree trunks in later on whenever it's dry. And we'll still push it back and forth a little bit. I said I would look at that shadow right here for y'all. So, like I had done earlier, my go-to for the shadow really quick when mapping things out is the Van Dyke Brown. Just like an easy, good dark that seems to retain pretty well. But I think I'll put some mixtures of greens and reds in there later on. There we go. Just dancing it around here, like I talked about earlier, how I don't want it to just be a flat line. I want the variety of growth taking place, of rocks, of clumps of branches. Use this guy for that tree trunk that comes up. There's some little, like the branches that you can see. I've been trying to figure out how I want to represent those. And all I can really come up with so far is stuff like this, the little dry brush, maybe a little lighter tonality. Darken that. I'm passing over the pre-existing tree trunk that I put in because I want to darken that, but you can just as simply pass over alongside it or a little bit of distance from it and just create ideas of depth as if you have a whole bunch of groups of trees in that spot. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. While we're over around this guy, let's go with an ochre. I'm looking for yellower groups of foliage, foliage that's catching some light. I'm going to go into that dark again. Here's a mix of the perylene green and the alizarin crimson. Honestly, I haven't quite figured out, with this approach, how I want to do those different mixes and when I want to use them. But right now, it's a convenience dark. And it's sitting behind that other glow. There's a lot of light coming through. What I mean is there's a lot of dots with lights coming through it, and it isn't super dappled like that. So I'm actually trying to hide some of those lights. Okay, and this dark comes up again right back in here. When I was learning how to oil paint in college, the approach that we were taught was looking for, the mixes, mixing the color, a very impressionistic approach. And I kind of moved away from that, but here I can see the value of just, we already have it preloaded, let's look for that darkness somewhere else and let's reapply it in another spot. So we have a sense of harmony throughout the painting. I'm curious, let's push this on the greener side of things. I'm not sure if it'll really show up too much in the video. I'm going to chase some of these darks up in here. Up in there might be a little too dark, but it'll dry and we'll be able to see what's going on. In fact, that dark. Letting that random texture happen. Even have some dark that shows up in here. Random texture again. I'm going to bring that down in here too. Now, with yesterday's approach to this scene, I kept neglecting this spot and walking away from it. So I'm going to try to come back in. This is the thinnest of the needle riggers. Look, I got paint on the back of my hand, so if you can wipe that off, it'll prevent you from smudging. Because I use my finger to kind of balance whenever I create dots. in Chinese brush painting, they had specific brushes for those dots. And I think different techniques for that. Okay, so it's coming together. Switch to this guy. Hence a yellow. So I'm really just exploring layering, texture in a different approach. Right in here, we're exploring the contrast. There's a lot of different things taking place. And pass it over pre-existing masses and see how it ties things together. And that is a great opportunity for another dry off. Okay. I think you can also play around with some of these ideas. You'll have to excuse Percy. She's scratching at a box alongside me. I'm just going to grab some palette mud. Put some ideas in with this needle rigger. Yeah, Percy Poo. Let's grab, this is the Van Dyke Brown. Just building up some of these darks. Also kind of, just to get that extreme glow with the Naples yellow strip right there. Okay. Strong Van Dyke Brown. So I'm just going to push it around. And I'm going to switch to raw umber just to see. We can get a little bit more defined tree right here, or at least you bring it a little closer in the picture plane. Nope. We're gonna have to bring it a little bit higher up because it's almost dead in line right here, and a small image would just not work well. Just bring it up a little bit. Look at ideas. Let's do something drastic for fun. Here's some Naples yellow, white gouache mixed with Hansa yellow light. And create even more of a glow through this spot. So light coming on that angle, and we could see through and see the glow happening. Percy. Yep. Here's some buff titanium. I haven't gotten in yet, but I ordered a big tube of it from Da Vinci brand. They had a sale, and I think 37 milliliters of it. It's like $8. So that should last a really long time. Just white tree trunk ideas. They're in the picture I'm referencing. In fact, there's a big tree that comes up right here, so it's hard for me to see. So kind of fudging some of those spots. Okay. We can bring ourselves back over into these tree trunks. In fact, there's going to be trees that we see through and tree trunks. And I'm just using the convenience dark of the Van Dyke. And we have less pigment, so we're getting some lighter branches. And I'm probably going to do some washes and some other pigments into these foliage areas. But I want to just start building this idea of depth in all these areas. So I'm starting the branches at the ends and bringing them to the tree trunk. Okay. Some light ideas up in here. There's that other tree trunk. I'm going to bring in highlights on the tree trunks in a bit. This guy that comes up kind of high. Put him there initially. Really haven't focused too much on. get it clean with slightly dirty water. Okay. Going back to the favorite brush. And let's see what I want to explore. Been just kind of building up this rich green gold. The Hansa yellow. Undersea green. This side's catching more light, so let's grab the Hansa yellow. I just really like the way this brush feels. I'm going to bring that up into that background. And here's some Naples yellow. You see how I'm like deliberately overlapping the other pigments I put down? So everything kind of just blends together and there's no really crazy harsh edges, which you can explore, but I've just been like I've been liking to bring these ideas together. Now that we've layered quite a bit of pigment and it's still wet, we can create a lot of textures in it. Use the paper towel, like I said, the back of the brush, your fingernails. All right. I think I want to bring some of this life into the trees. Here's the Hansa yellow. Okay. Some palette rich green gold, just a little bit of palette mud. Take the paper towel, move things around. But now, you guessed it, a dry off. I think we're coming up on like the hour mark, so I'm going to do a few things that need to be done, and then I think I'm going to do the rest off camera. Here is the highlights on the tree, so the light's coming from that direction. This is buff titanium that I'm using. Dead tree branches right there. I'm going to do more, I think, in these foliage off camera, but start getting like dead branches that are coming out. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed. I'm not sure if like I said, I'm not sure if this one will be public, but I think it will be. I hope you enjoyed. Of course, please like, subscribe, follow, and please consider supporting this channel. And if you like the maple brushes, golden maple, I have links down below in the comments. Okay. So we'll leave it at that. Y'all take care and have a great day. Bye.